Okay, so let's get right into it. Did you know there's this hidden event that happens every single year and it basically shapes our entire world? It's not something you'll see in the headlines, no alarms go off, but trust me, its effects are absolutely massive. And it all boils down to this one really simple fact. Around January 14th, the sun, well, it changes direction in our sky. Now, it's a super tiny shift, right? Almost impossible to notice. But the consequences? They're enormous. I mean, believe it or not, this one little celestial tweak is quietly pulling the strings on everything. I'm talking our clocks, the financial markets, our most advanced tech, even, get this, the subtle patterns of our own behavior. And the crazy part? Most of us have no clue it's even happening. And look, before you think this is some kind of ancient mythology or folklore, it's not. What we're talking about here is a fundamental principle of orbital mechanics. This is just pure physics. Okay, so to really get a handle on this January reset, we first have to tackle a huge misconception that almost all of us have about winter, specifically about what happens right after the winter solstice. So, you know how we all learned that after the winter solstice, the shortest day of the year, the days start getting longer again? And we just assume that means sunrise gets a little earlier and sunset gets a little later each day. Well, that's not exactly right. For weeks after the solstice, the time the sun sets barely moves at all. The thing that is moving is something called solar noon, and it just keeps drifting later and later into the afternoon. And just so we're all on the same page here, what is solar noon? It's simply the moment the sun is at its absolute highest point in the sky each day. Think of it as the true midpoint of the day. It's what our ancestors used to set their clocks by. And that's the thing that's been getting pushed back day after day ever since the solstice. Until this one day. Around January 14th, that drift just stops. Solar noon stops getting later. It hits the brakes, and it finally reverses course. It starts moving earlier again. That is the reset. It's the moment the sun kind of corrects its path relative to our clocks. And the reason why this happens, it's absolutely fascinating. The whole answer lies in two just enormous cosmic forces that are constantly at play, acting on our planet all the time. They're what create this weird annual wobble in how we keep time. And really, we can break it down into two main things. First, you've got Earth's tilted axis. That's what gives us seasons, right? We all know that. And second, there's the fact that our orbit around the sun isn't a perfect circle. It's actually an ellipse, an oval. Now here's where it gets kind of wild. Because of that oval-shaped orbit, in early January, our planet is actually at its closest point to the sun for the entire year. It's a point called perihelion. Yeah, you heard that right. We're literally closer to the sun in the dead of winter in the northern hemisphere than we are in the summer. How crazy is that? And here's the kicker. The result of being that close? Speed. Think of it like a spaceship in a movie doing a slingshot maneuver around a star to gain speed. Well, that's us. When Earth is at perihelion, it's moving at its absolute fastest speed in its orbit. We are literally hurtling through space faster right now than at any other time of the year. And that extra speed is what throws everything out of whack. Imagine you have a race car and a regular clock. The car is going faster than the clock is designed to track. That's what's happening. Our planet is covering more ground in its orbit each day than our rigid 24-hour clocks are built for. So the Earth has to rotate just a little bit extra to get the sun back to that high noon position. That's why solar noon keeps arriving later. It creates this time imbalance that finally starts to correct itself around January 14th, when other orbital factors kick in. So this is way more than just a quirky little fact for astronomy buffs. This solar wobble is like a golden thread running through human history. People have been tracking it for thousands of years, and it connects our most ancient ancestors directly to our super high-tech world today. I mean, just look at this timeline. It shows you how long we've been watching this. You've got ancient monuments like Stonehenge. They weren't just about the solstices. They were tracking this exact return to stability. You have Mayan temples perfectly aligned with these solar events. Fast forward to the 17th century, and we finally gave it a name and calculated it. The equation of time. And now, today, our entire global infrastructure literally depends on understanding this. Because this stuff has real-world bottom-line consequences. Power grids, they have to quietly adjust their forecasts for solar output based on this. Satellite engineers, they have to factor it in to keep GPS accurate. A tiny mistake there can cost millions. And yeah, even the financial markets feel it. The shift back to more predictable daylight has been shown to improve consumer mood, boost productivity, and even affect how people feel about taking risks. Okay, but all of this all this physics and history, it leads to something way deeper, almost philosophical. Because what the January reset really does is expose a kind of uncomfortable truth about something we take for granted every single day. And it's this. Our clocks are, in a way, an invention. The precise tick-tock second-by-second time that runs our lives, that's something we made up. It's an artificial grid we've laid over the top of the real world. Nature, the sun, the cosmos, they don't care about our schedule. Think about it. Our entire modern world, our supply chains, our internet, our financial systems, it's all built on one giant assumption that everything is stable, predictable, and moves in a straight line. But the sun, with its little annual wobble, comes along every year and proves that idea wrong. It shows us that in the real, natural world, perfect stability is just an illusion. And that's really the ultimate takeaway here. The January reset is this quiet, humble, annual reminder. It's telling us that the huge cosmic forces that are really shaping our world and our future, they are so much older, so much stronger, and way, way more patient than anything we could ever hope to build. So look, the question isn't, will the sun keep doing this? Of course it will. It always has. The real question is for us. In a world that is obsessed with precision and predictability, are we going to remember to look up and notice these fundamental truths? Before the next big imbalance shows up and really, really matters again?